Hello and welcome to the STCfit Learning Podcast. I'll be your host today. My name's Ben Scott. I'll be joined by Jason Galea. Thanks for joining us on our way to create 1 million positive outcomes for personal training clients by 2030. The podcast is brought to you by @STCfit Learning, a page created to upskill and educate PTs and gym nerds. Also brought to you by @STCfit, and that's a place for all your online and in-person personal training needs. If you enjoyed today's episodes, please give us a share and tag on the Instawebs. You can tag @STCfit, @STCfit Learning, @BenScottSC, and @JasonGalea PC. Hope you enjoy the show. We are live.
What's up, guys?
Feels like fucking forever.
It's been a long time, man. I actually can't even think about when we were last on.
Yeah, I think it's at least been a month.
Yeah, it was probably that week before Christmas, and then we said we'd come and do another episode, and we just never did.
Yeah. So
Those that because we know you all have actually been absolutely hanging for us to get back on.
Yeah, be definitely jumping in straight away. Super excited that we're back.
Yeah.
How's your holiday period?
Yeah, good. Yeah, it was obviously really nice to just go away on an actual holiday and be able to disconnect from, the normal behaviors of life and, not have to think about work and stuff. So that was definitely good. And that's what the holiday did. Weather was good. Obviously got a little bit, how's it going with the whole COVID situation, being in Brisbane, and then, obviously being in that kind of, red zone or whatever they call it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that got a little bit weird. But I think that's just kind of the world we live in at the moment, and kind of the risk you take when you go away on a holiday and stuff. But yeah, all in all, it was still, really awesome. Kind of came back energized, ready to go, ready to get back into training and stuff. Lost a heap of weight, just not eating enough. Like when you go on a boys trip, it's we'll have dinner, just so we can line our stomach for alcohol, and then after that, it's just whatever.
Whatever needs to happen happens. Yeah,
pretty much.
It's funny. I always think back to days when I used to just eat to be full.
Yeah.
It's such a weird concept to think about now. It's so much deliberateness about what you put in your face. It's hey, remember when you just ate sausages and shit because it didn't matter?
Yeah, you just ate because.
Yeah. My stomach's doing that thing, so I need to put some food in it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I don't think you realize just how much you need to eat just to kind of maintain your weight. When you're probably, when you're way heavier than you should be, at the end of the day, we all have there's a pretty good idea of how heavy we should be. There's pretty good research that kind of allows us to kind of make that assumption. But yeah, when you're way above that, it's you need to do on a daily basis, you need to have that practice where, everything is, the same or autonomous to it, at a protein and calorie level, or it just falls away. And that's kind of what happened. It's just got on the scales and I was like, what the fuck happened here? How do you lose? I did 2 sessions in 14 days. That can't be atrophy or whatever. Blew my mind. So anyway, back into it, back on the diet.
How much did you put back on, refeeding again?
What was that?
How much did you put back on just from eating again?
No, I'm probably only up 1 kilo, but again, I was saying the other day, I'm just way too distracted just with getting back into work. So, took a little bit to get back into a productive mode week from day to day. So yeah, now it's just next thing is to just get those meals in regularly. Training's good, new program, new phase, off we go. So yeah. Yeah,
it's good. Yeah, mine wasn't too bad actually. I didn't really have a holiday. I guess did the public holiday thing. Amy had a couple of weeks off though, so it was a bit of extra, only work till sort of midday and do stuff in the afternoon, which was nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, it can always go either way with both my family and my friends from Shepparton. It's always a bit of this could finish at 10 p.m. or this could finish at 5 a.m. So we'll just roll in and see how it goes. We left Christmas, so a couple of my cousins have just sort of turned 18, 19. So they're in the party scene. And I think it's not an actual beer bong, it's just the snorkel thing that goes on a stubby.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think that came out, and within 60 minutes, Amy and I were let's get the fuck out of here. This is going south real quick.
Yeah.
So yeah, apparently that got pretty lit once we'd left. But I went to my mate's place and his wife was pregnant. So I just like out of habit grabbed a drink out of the fridge, walked out the back to see the boys, and no one had a drink. I was like, okay, so it's like that. All right, cool. So yeah, it was pretty cruisy, which was actually good because I had planned on getting some work done that week. So
yeah,
it's good. But I've just booked this week a few days in Daylesford in February, which is
nice.
Now that I've booked it, I'm super hanging for it.
Isn't that always the way when you know something's coming? Everything's just a struggle until you get there.
Yeah, super simple. Just Airbnb with a spa, like on a balcony, which I'll just live in for 3 days, I think.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Maybe leave. I think there's a pizza shop like across the road that's supposed to be real famous.
Yeah.
So I might leave the spa to eat pizza.
That's the only reason why I'd leave the spa, to be honest.
Yeah, for food.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. But yeah, I think training's just kind of ticking along at the moment. Nothing magic is happening. I'm getting stronger, which is strange because I shouldn't be, but I am.
Yeah.
So I equaled my bench. I'll probably do an all-time bench PB next week based on how things are going. So that's still cool, but I'll probably start prep for June, the week I get back from holidays. Give APL a crack for their debut, or it's not that it'll be their second meet in Victoria. So most of our guys are moving across to that Fed, so handle and lift on the same day. So I'll handball most of that to Jace, but it'll be fine.
Oh yeah, I might be busy that day.
That's pretty much it though. There's not else. I lost a couple of kilos over the break. I'm not too stressed about it. I'm sleeping a lot better. I've actually had to go to the nasal strips.
Yeah, I'm interested to know how they go.
Yeah, the feedback is it's improving. So I've also got a bit of like allergy sinus stuff going on, which isn't helping. But I've definitely increased the cardio. You see the bike is actually not covered in dust at the moment. I am using it. But yeah, push my steps up, doing some more cardio and put the nasal strips on only this week. But yeah, feedback from Amy overnight was it was better.
Oh, well, that's positive.
Yeah. And I'm not
progress is what we're after.
I'm not waking up like unable to swallow because I've just been beating the shit out of my throat all night. So that's a positive. But like I said, I've lost a little bit of weight, so we'll see. It seems like anything over 94 was where it really kicked in. So we'll see once I put that back on what happens.
Yeah.
Just try not to put it all on my neck this time.
Yeah.
So to finish off our 5-pillar series that we've been working through over the last however many weeks it's been, the final pillar is be great, which is around your ability to be technically proficient. Yep. So today we're just going to open that up about like what it really takes to just be a great personal trainer. I think the discussion that we were having before is like the people we work with, and I think most personal trainers that I would have conversations with probably focus on this pillar above all else, and they rarely step back and actually think about, well, what does my client actually need? Jason and I have talked on the podcast before about like paying exorbitant amounts of money to go see a particular speaker and learn a certain thing or whatever. That, if we look back at it now and be totally honest, was probably more for us than our clients and for our business, and did more for ourselves than anything else. So I think it's important sometimes to step back and go, how do I be the most proficient at being a good personal trainer for my target client base?
Yeah, I think to play devil's advocate, because there's going to be people that are straight off the bat going to like, maybe get a little bit butthurt with that statement.
Come at me.
But you can still fulfill like, your own element of like education and that kind of stuff as well. Because, a lot of the people that are tuning into this podcast, train, and they want to kind of try and figure some things out for them too.
Definitely.
We can't forget that for our business to succeed, we need to really understand the needs of what our clients the needs our clients have. And we need to kind of make sure we have a sufficient education around solving the problems that they have and providing a service for them. And like Ben and I have said in the past, like people get a bit too carried away and just nerding out for themselves and then almost like get into a position where they're like pushing a service onto their clients that like doesn't necessarily like, kind of service them that well, when they could just take a couple of steps back, take the ego out of it, and go, right, what do they need? Where do I need to be proficient in for them? And then I can also, on the side, have this pursuit of knowledge and education for myself as well.
Yeah, 100%. There's always like overlaying everything. Like if you go and do like a squat mechanics workshop or something like that, that's targeted at making your squat better, you're obviously going to be able to carry over a lot of that information for your clients as well. But say you're working with Gen Pop, you need to also know what to do when someone actually can't get under the barbell, or like how to still get that general fat loss and strength adaptation without being able to get under the barbell, because it's going to take you 30 minutes to teach someone how to squat properly, and they don't actually give a shit enough to value that.
Yeah.
So I think it's that awareness of what information is specifically valuable to your clients, and then what is on the fringes that's specifically valuable for you, which, look, to be honest, as you develop through your career, I know for myself, the better I've got as a lifter, the better my clients' baseline is as a lifter as well. So I seem to attract people who are more proficient based on my own proficiency. So there's definitely value in that as well. But I think the main message to take home today is do all the education and stuff that you want, but make sure that you're technically proficient in getting an outcome for the client that you want to work with.
Yeah. 100%.
So I think, Jace, you would agree, and this is where it gets really interesting straight away. And like I said, people getting butthurt, like, don't do education for yourself, like make sure you know your clients. This will probably challenge those same people. The ability to communicate with clients and actually coach, I think, is the number one on the list for technical proficiency. Like actually being able to get buy-in and have discussions and communicate effectively with your clients is more important than how much you know, often more important how much you know about biomechanics.
Yeah, because I guess the best example of that is just that trainer that's not really that technically proficient, doesn't have that kind of language and jargon from the textbooks and stuff, but they still have really, really good relationships with their clients, and a lot of them can still get really, really good results too. And that's because they're able to kind of empathize, communicate, understand, acknowledge their clients, and their clients feel comfortable, potentially kind of open up to them in more often than they would to someone who they don't kind of get along with. That's always going to help the personal trainer client relationship. And where the flip side of it is, you see these really technically skilled like lots of education, lots of certifications, and value their education is really high up on their in their top 3 or 4 values maybe. But they really, really struggle to communicate with a person and be able to make them comfortable, open up to them, solve problems, those kind of things. And that's really kind of, you need both. You definitely do. But if you're not a great communicator, it's going to be really hard to just kind of unload all of this knowledge onto somebody else if they need it.
Yeah, 100%. And like having all of that knowledge without being able to communicate it effectively, or create, one thing that people miss too is actually create belief in buy-in with people. Like if you're communicating in a way that's just like telling someone, you're not helping them. Sorry, it's garbage day in Bruckner Drive. If you're not able to, we don't like the word motivation or inspire necessarily, but being able to create an environment that the person wants to pursue the outcome, because whether it's that you've enabled them to believe that they can, or instill confidence in them and empowered them in some way to actually go and execute with you by themselves, all that type of stuff is often as important, but often way more overlooked than the technical skills themselves.
Yeah, and I really think that a lot of people get separated, like coaches get separated by this area a lot. Like, at the end of the day, we all have access to education. We all have the access to the abilities of the fundamentals, like, knowing about programming, knowing about squatting, understanding, mechanisms of fat loss, hypertrophy, strength, all of the really cool and fascinating stuff that we as coaches just want to nerd the fuck out on. But what is going to make you stand out from the pack is this stuff, is your ability to make your client feel comfortable, relate to you, you trust them, like Ben said, make them commit to something, identify what that is, and when shit doesn't go to plan, they actually tell you the truth. And, I feel like the service-based industry is becoming more and more and more important as we move into these digital ages, and people are starting to hide behind screens and using keyboards and whatnot. They're going to thrive on human interaction. Like, we still thrive on human interaction. That's why I love going to the barber. I know Ben does too. My wife definitely likes going to get her hair done and like catching up with whoever and just like gossiping and stuff, or just chatting, And it's just because like that's what we as humans are, supposed to do. So if we can kind of set ourselves apart and be really good at communicating with people, then that's the thing that's going to really stand out for your clients, especially like, we talk about this like client experience and, how can our clients become advocates for us to talk to other people and be these like walking billboards. It's like, this is where it's at. They're not going to sit there and tell their friends, oh, I got told about mechanisms of hypertrophy by Jason, so I'm going to tell you guys to go and coach with it. Like, they're not going to do that. I'm sorry. Us coaches will do it. And it's like, hey, this guy's really fucking smart. Like, you guys should go and like hang around him or do one of his workshops or something. But like, if you don't train trainers, then you need to make your clients feel comfortable and improve the experience for them and make them trust you and get outcomes. And it's like, this is how we stand out. This is how we do it.
The irony is, even when you are communicating at maybe a higher level of knowledge, like the smart people, for example, that we would be like, hey, this person like fixed my shoulder or improved this in my squat or whatever, or this person understands physiology to a crazy level. It's still the way that they communicate that to you that makes you go, oh, fuck, they really get that and they're really smart. Like, it's not just they wrote things down on a piece of paper and pushed it over to you and was like, well, there you go. That's how you write a program. It's like, oh, that doesn't really engage me, and I still aren't going to go tell people about you. So no matter what level of who you're working with, you still have to be able to deliver content that's engaging, or deliver knowledge that's engaging and that creates value for the person that's sitting across from you.
Yeah.
So in terms of how to do that, obviously I feel like we've established the importance pretty clearly now. Actually, how to do it. Look, Jason and I went down the road of an incredibly uncomfortable, challenging weekend. It was 3 days long with 4 business partners who had to talk about their business candidly to each other, doing a Cert 4 in mindset coaching. As funny as people will like look at mindset coaching sometimes and go, oh, it's woo woo and whatever. Most people probably wouldn't even know that Jason and I have it and that we use it, but a lot of our clients will talk about how well we engage with them and how much they've actually improved their mindset with training, nutrition, themselves, all that sort of stuff over the time of working with us. So that was an invaluable experience. Yeah, Jace, maybe your experience on that before we move on to some like tangibles that people could do.
Yeah, so it's a really valuable, there was some really valuable lessons to learn over that week. And obviously, like, the awkwardness and the role play and stuff was good from a growth perspective. Like, as much as like we didn't want to do it at the time, like, years down the track, it's like, that's the best place to learn. It's the best way to learn. But the content itself was really valuable from like, the ability to build relationships and understand your clients, but also to just reduce that overall like stress and anxiety and pressure that we put ourselves on as coaches and taking ownership of things that we shouldn't. And even just like, putting ourselves in situations where we're like challenging things like our self-worth when, all we need to really do is sit back and go, what's actually happening here? Why am I actually feeling this way? Do I actually deserve to feel this way, or what is this meaning? And then come out of it at the end and go, well, what's a better way of approaching it? And I've spoken about the story before where it's just like, I've been out for dinner with my wife, and just thinking about like my clients and, just taking ownership of like their results and all that, those things, and thinking about, well, how am I going to solve this problem for someone? And it was just a real reflection of like me and my, what I thought that situation was reflecting on my ability as a coach. And this weekend actually really helped me to kind of disconnect from that. It's not like you're not taking ownership for things that you should, but it's just like really trying to navigate through a situation like that and go, what is this actually meaning? And, I know for myself, I've been able to kind of just like put some things to the side that didn't deserve my attention. And then, at the same time, just like, there were a lot of things that we were doing already, but it's just making meaning of it. Like, it's like, why would I want to ask this question? Why would I want to encourage this conversation? Or even just like how to guide conversation where you want it to go for someone to make an actual solution for themselves. It's much better than you sitting there just like telling people what to do, because it's just like, again, personal trainer, high and mighty, larger than life. We're perfect, of course. Telling someone what to do is not a good way of them absorbing information. It's just like, all right, let's navigate through the situation and you tell me what you think you could do to make sure this happens. And, that's just an invaluable thing to do as a personal trainer. It's like, if you want these personal connections with people, if you want to thrive in a service-based industry, you need to be able to have conversations like this, and you need to be able to manage a large group of people and disconnect from some things when you need to, that don't mean things that we're trying to put on them, put weight on them. So like, obviously you can tell I'm very happy that, and very, very lucky to be able to go through an opportunity like that. And we got exposed to it from a colleague of ours. No one kind of goes down this route and relates it to coaching. And I think that that's kind of a little bit of a hole that people need to fill. Do you need to base your whole business around it? No, but it's like, you definitely need to understand it.
Yeah. And just to be, I think, really clear, is like, at that time we had a couple of other coaches who had gone down that path. And I think we were a little bit even apprehensive at the time, because they were very much like, let's high five and great job and let's cuddle and sing Kumbaya and all that shit. And that was not us. Like, we weren't those coaches. But it's about, I guess, spinning off from, if you don't want to go down the road of a Cert 3 or 4 in mindset coaching. The main things we learned were fundamentals of NLP, so neuro-linguistic programming. And then the big one that you can find is fairly available online as well. It's called the REACH model. It's just a form of communicating. It's a way of structuring a conversation that allows the client to figure things out and empowers them to make choices. It takes, like Jace was saying, takes that pressure off you, but also the outcomes that you will get, they are infinitely better because the client has made the decision rather than you have told them what to do. And, we know ourselves, like, when we get told what to do versus when we decide we want to do something, which one are you going to be more likely to do?
Yeah, I would much rather have a toolbox of strategies to help with people's commitment and motivation and obstacles, and be able to navigate things like goals and stuff, even just like day-to-day problems, than just be that person that sits there and tries to deflect ownership and go, well, you didn't hit your macros this week, so next week you just got to hit your macros. It's like, there's too many people like that out there. Again, like I've said, these conversations will, set you apart. And then obviously, when we talk about this from a retention perspective as well, it's like, what kind of relationship are you going to build with a client with these kind of things? It's like, this is where a true client trainer relationship really starts to evolve, rather than just being a number, and having, like a check-in or whatever it is. It's like, cool, I'll see you when I see you, or, all good, hit your macros next week. It's like, it's not a really good connection there. So I just think from a retention perspective too, for coaches and business owners, it's like, relationships are everything.
Yeah. So we'll just touch on quickly before we move on, the differences for online versus face-to-face with this context. It's probably, of all of the online coaching space, aside from being able to walk, like our client acquisition episode that we did last week, being able to walk into a gym with 4,000 people is a plus when you're looking for business. This is probably the most challenging thing when it comes to actually engaging with clients and getting outcomes, is being able to communicate when you're only touching base with someone maybe once a week, a couple of times a week.
Yeah.
So thinking through this stuff and understanding, trying to having the skill set to put yourself in the mind of the client, and then what are they going to need? What questions you need to ask to get them to think about the things you need them to think about? And then what feedback do you need? And how is that engagement and relationship going to work in an online space, which I think is maybe where there's an even bigger gap online with this stuff than there is face-to-face.
Yeah, I think unless you have like a massive following, and your lead generation is like, organic in itself, or like just maybe with some like paid marketing or something, like you need to get very good at finding a way to develop these relationships online, because unless people are just coming to you, without you even trying, you're going to have to, and staying with you, or you're just got the ability to turn them over quickly. Yeah. Like like a lead acquisition and retention perspective online, it's like these are the things that people still thrive on. Like, still need to kind of find a way to build a connection to your clients in the online space outside of that, like just, super high volume, organic, large following kind of fitness pros that everyone bases their business off, which realistically it's a very, very small percentage of the fitness industry kind of operate that way. So again, it's just a matter of like, how can I look at the bare bones of the face-to-face model from a mindset perspective, like what's going on here? What am I trying to achieve? How can I replicate this into some form of like remote model, and still kind of have a relationship, and let them know on the other side that there's someone still invested in, like, how they're feeling, what they're doing, what they're working towards, providing solutions for them, who has a toolbox of activities and language and actions and behaviors to navigate them out of a really difficult time, and it actually gives a fuck too.
Yeah, that's the main one.
Well, there's one thing to doing a motivational interview and just like handing them a piece of paper and writing things down in the fucking squares, and then there's creating a video for them, doing it together, prompting, probing, looking at what they've had to say, challenging them, suggesting. It's just so different. Like, someone could be blown away by just being handed a motivational interview, and then it's like, nah, the next level shit is like, we'll take you through it. So
that's the other thing that we learned during that as well, as the motivational interviewing, which you can find. Also, all right, so moving on from that, like building the relationships and being able to communicate. The next, I've tried to do this as much in order of importance as possible. And Jace, you say it all the time, like your job as a personal trainer is to prescribe and teach exercise.
Yeah.
So your ability to facilitate exercise execution should be pretty fucking high on the list of importance of what you do.
Yeah, like technique, proficiency, all of those things, like all the cool words that we want to call it, is like the number one thing. Like you should not see a coach outside of maybe in the first 12 months, still learning a lot of movements. I get it. I'm giving you guys some leeway. Outside of 12 months, like you should not be able to see someone doing an exercise incorrect and not being able to prompt a reason to navigate them out or a potential reason why it's happening. Just blows my fucking mind. Like how your precision of rep is everything. How you execute, it's like a recipe. Everyone can be given the ingredients. It's how you actually put the recipe together that actually makes the cake great or the meal. It's like you either have fucking scrambled eggs or an omelet. It's like, what do you want? And it's like the omelet's in the execution, right? So if you guys want fucking scrambled eggs when you guys are doing your bench presses and your squats and stuff, like, and someone else is over here making fucking omelets, it's like, who's going to get better outcomes long-term? Who's everyone going to be looking at? It's like, I'm going to go with the omelets unless you guys like scrambled eggs a lot.
Yeah.
And we try to navigate out of this space way too fast. Mm-hmm. Every single person thinks they know what's going on. Every single person thinks they've like gotten the technique. Man, I'm fucking certain that like Tiger, Roger, Mayweather, like they never sit there and say like, oh, I know how to jab now. I know how to do it, like hit a fucking driver down a fairway. I know how to do my backhand slice. Like they're fucking working on that shit all the time. So it's like, you guys never get the technique. It's always evolving. It's something that you should always be, kind of brushing up your skill set on and revisiting. And that's what sets you apart, especially as a face-to-face coach. And even in the online space, you've got a really good eye. It's like, hey, send me a video. I can give you some cues to fix it. Oh, my other online coach couldn't do that. It's like, yeah, because they don't know their technique. They don't know the proficiency. They don't have like a general understanding of like biomechanics, muscle action. Like, man, the amount of people who just like don't know what a muscle does in terms of its actions, like that's actually fucking scary. Like, because you're prescribing movements in a lot of cases to stimulate certain muscle groups. It's like, if you don't know what that muscle group does, like how are you supposed to look at the movement and go, hey, that's working? Like, all right, just kind of doesn't really compute with me. So as you can tell, it's like a real sore spot, like, because it's just main scope of practice. Like we go through like the cert 3 and 4, and it's all about exercise. And there's a considerable component of it that's muscles and bones. And it's because like, oh, the words are too complicated. There's too many syllables in them. It's science jargon. I'm just going to eject. And it's like, okay, that's fine. There's other people that are going to learn that stuff and understand it to a general level, and they're going to stand out just because of that.
Yeah. It's amazing that general knowledge stands out on the PT gym floor.
Yeah, like what's the action of the lat? And like someone's just like, what the fuck? Like, what did you just say to me?
Yeah.
Like, okay, cool. Like, you know, I just think everyone should have a really, like, you should be able to look at a skeleton and the one with the muscles on it and just be able to point the muscles and say, this is what this muscle is. This is where it attaches. This is how you get origin and insertion together, which means it contracts. So that's what this is called. You don't necessarily have to like horizontal lateral adduction or whatever. Like you don't need to go that far. Like you definitely do, like if you want to work with certain populations, and I think people should get there eventually. But it's like, if you don't know why a muscle, like how a muscle locomotes the skeleton, you're in big trouble. Like, because you can't identify whether something's being done right or wrong. You're just going, okay, so I'm looking at things from A to B. Oh yeah, cool, we got there. My shoulder hurts. No, don't worry about that. Got there. Yeah, go get that checked out. But we'll just fucking hurt it again. Like, yeah, just it's something that only a few people kind of really put as like that number one thing that they should be good at. It's like, you should be good at this. You should be exceptional at it. And we're just not. There's not enough people that are.
Yeah, it's another habit that people, like you said, they just move on too quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have that much to add. I think we accidentally poked the bear and we got a good response.
Right. My spot. It's the thing I love the most.
I like it. It was good. So months, these two align well together, because if you don't understand exercise execution, programming becomes much more challenging. But the next thing that I think is very important is programming. And I've got to be honest, and Jace, I know you'll say the same thing, having spent 2 or 3 years, whatever it was, delivering the Cert 4 course is probably the standout part of that entire course.
Yeah.
Was their programming model.
Yeah, it's good. It's from a general population entry-level personal trainer perspective, it ticks all the boxes, man.
Yeah.
Like if you got good at that, you could still get really good outcomes with most people.
Yeah.
The thing that I reckon most people kind of look at that and go, oh, it's too simple, it's not sexy enough, and it's like we need to do some dumb shit to like entertain ourselves. But it's it's an exceptional model for an entry-level personal trainer that most people should master, and they don't.
Potentially the problem is because you don't understand exercise execution. When you apply your programming model, because you don't understand exercise execution, you feel like it's not complex enough because you're just partnering an array of different leg exercises on leg day. And it's like, oh, well, that's simple. It's like, well, did you think about the exercise order and why you're putting that one there and why you're choosing this one and why you would put in external stability and why you wouldn't put in external stability and that sort of shit? That's what actually makes a program great. More so than the I guess, parameters that chosen method has provided you. So like we have programming methods, we have a fundamental one, and then we have one for strength and one for hypertrophy. And they're very, very, very specific to allow us to quantify things as much as possible, far beyond what they offer in the Cert 4. But you can get results with the Cert 4 if you understand exercise. We just choose to go to another level because it gives us more data, because we work with people that's actually of benefit to.
It's just a greater understanding too. Like as you understand more, there's more moving parts. You can be able to put more pieces together. I think what most people are trying to do is just complicate something that could be really simple, straight off the bat, and they can get real good at it. Like if something's simple, you guys will master it faster.
Yeah.
Most people want to do the other thing. I know it's like a sign that you're becoming better, because if it's more complex and you can grasp it, your knowledge is increasing. Or they believe so. So then, going back and making things simple is going to be, them almost, they think they're regressing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, think about how good you would be at some really straightforward programming model that was effective. Because at the end of the day, we're here to get outcomes, right, guys? So if it's simple and effective and you're really good at it, you're going to be the person that people go to get X, because you're getting actual outcomes of people, getting good results. And you can kind of tell someone why it's happening too.
Yeah.
On the side, go and nerd the fuck out on programming, sets, reps, rest periods. You want to play around with tempo, all of that kind of stuff, go for it. We did the same thing, right? But still be able to kind of have some form of programming model where you have 4 clients. There's a similar rationale with how you got to the steps of giving it to them. It's not just like, I went on bodybuilding.com, typed in shoulders program. Cool, this guy wants big shoulders. Off Instagram, some said famous Instagram model, chest workout. Cool, just slap that into some other generic program. Here you go. Or you're just kind of doing random workouts, you're not even kind of doing programs. There has to be a rational thinking of like, okay, so we're going to go from here to here to here to here and give this person a program.
Yep.
And that's what we're missing. And it's funny because we get taught that process just in a really easy to follow way. And we just push it aside so quickly. Just want to move on to the sexy shit.
Yeah. If you combine, even the course that I did, what didn't have the programming model that we taught, it was like push, pull, leg fundamentals that even further regressed. If you can communicate well, you can prescribe and teach exercise well, and you use that basic ass push, pull, leg programming, maybe an A and B cycle, or just even just do the same workout 3 times a week. If you can communicate that well enough, you'll get better results than fucking with complicated shit you don't understand.
Yeah.
Your clients won't do it if you don't have the communication in place. They'll likely either get hurt or it just won't be effective because you're not understanding the foundations or the fundamentals of exercise execution. And because they're not consistent, your fancy ass programming doesn't work anyway, because it needs to be really consistent to be effective at that level. So I think that's something that people miss. My pet peeve that triggers me the way Jace got triggered with exercise execution is personal trainers that don't have programs.
Yeah.
There's nothing that shits me more than that. It's like, that's your fucking job. Know how to do exercise and write fucking programs.
Yeah, really
that's Cert 3 shit.
Yeah, it's a reflection of your service.
I find it disrespectful to the client. And I don't care if you do HIIT training or whatever, you can fucking program all of it. CrossFit has a programming model. The ultimate of be prepared for everything, fucking show up and do what's on the whiteboard for my WOD. They have a fucking programming model in their booklet that tells you how to write programming for that.
Yeah.
So I don't buy that my clients just want to come in and have fun. Yeah, cool. You can still program and deliver that outcome and show progression over time. My challenge to you is the reason that you're not programming is because you're scared that if they get 5 weeks in and they haven't progressed, they'll leave.
Yeah, or the mindset that if you provide the program for them, they'll leave. That's a reflection of yourself more than anything.
Yes, it's just a fear-based mindset, which isn't going to get you real far in this industry.
No.
It needs to be client first. Client first mentality will return much greater outcomes than anything else.
But I think closing this section or this part off, just this acute part, talk to any experienced coach. They'll tell you how they've gone full circle. They started they got taught a simple model, drifted away, did all the sexy shit. Now they've come back and they go, simple is effective. It's easy to follow. And then you've got more quantifiable measures to then throw things in. Yes, you can do some things that are different to what you've learned in earlier in your career, and they are a little bit more complex. But most of these coaches are going to say that like the model that's easy to follow with as many moving parts as people need is going to be the most effective way long term for adherence, all of those kind of things. So just so you guys understand, like we're not shitting on all these methods and stuff. It's just like there's so many holes that we see. You guys are navigating out of these things a little bit too quickly and trying to move on to like all of the sexy shit when if you kind of come up with step 1 to 4 and how a program came about, if you guys are actually providing them, you usually can't do it. So it's like, make sure you can rationalize why you're doing something, why the client's doing something. They should be able to ask that question every time. You should be able to answer.
Because the reality of it is most of them work. Particularly if you're working with
anything will work. Of course it will.
Working with the general population, like you can do a wave load, you can do a 5x5, you can do a GBC 100%. Program, you can do whatever. You pick whatever method you want. It's likely going to get an outcome, but it's knowing inside that model how to manipulate the variables that are going to get the results long term.
Yeah, making sure it's specific to the outcome.
Phase. Sorry.
But making sure it's specific to the outcome as well. So it's like we don't want people like I'm not going to program fucking circuit training for my bodybuilders or something. Like it's just weird. Like it just doesn't make any sense. So just making sure it's applicable to the goal, and making sure you're taking in your clients' individual goals and considerations. What separates you guys, so you don't become that cookie cutter person that just like does the same shit with everyone.
Yeah.
Exceptional programming knowledge again will separate you from those people. That's how you stand out again.
So if you're working with someone who has general body composition focused goals like get fit, tone up, lose body fat, build some muscle mass, increase general strength, improve overall confidence, that sort of stuff, most of these people, until they move into an athletic type mindset, most of them want to train when they're training. They don't want to spend too much time fucking around with learning a technique for a complex exercise that they can't figure out. So I think potentially for me, the most important step in a good program is knowing your progressions and regressions really well.
Yeah.
And being able to move up and down that chain really quickly based on the person that you're working with.
Yeah, definitely. And it's like it's a qualification spectrum to movements that people navigate too fast. So we, just use the barbell back squat for, an example. People slam a bar on someone's back as soon as they can sit on a bench.
Yeah.
So if I can control myself sitting on a bench, boom, bars on the back. That's it. You're in. You've earned your badge. There's probably 3 exercises minimum that you could do before you slam a bar on someone's back to make sure they're prepared for that, or that just like puts them in the best position for when that bar's on their back that they would maximize the benefit of it.
Yeah, and a lot of people push back on that, like, oh, well, I can teach anyone to back squat. It's like, yeah, cool. You can spend 20 minutes and get their squat right by the time they leave. And then you can spend 15 minutes the next week. And then you can spend 10 minutes the next week. And then you spend 5 minutes the next week. How much work are they actually doing during that time? Whereas if I'm standing on the platform across from you, taking them through a kettlebell front squat into a front rack kettlebell front squat into maybe a safety bar or a front squat variant with a barbell, and then into the back squat, who's squatting more at the end of the 4 to 6 week period? Who got more strength, muscle mass, fat loss outcomes over that time, and who feels better about going to the gym?
Yeah. Yeah. I guess the argument then is like, the technical people that are listening to this, sure, like you guys can definitely navigate through that. The less technically proficient people that haven't gotten to that stage of like dissecting the squat to be able to spend, a couple of hours, maybe even talking about it, are gonna be better served understanding the progression model from movement to movement, because each step makes that lifter better to be able to get into the most regressed position. Mm-hmm. Rather than like, I know that I have to teach someone to sit on a box and then stand 2 feet in front of it and do it in the air. All right, let's slam a bar on their back. Oh no, they're wobbling everywhere. They're not making depth. Their arms are flapping around like a chicken. Oh, good job. Let's put 5 kilos on either side, because that's the only way I know that you get gratification from this.
Yep.
Where if you have this regression model, we've seen it happen. I was talking to someone about it today. movements make other movements better if they're prescribed properly. So you can make someone better at deadlifting if you have some, split stance RDLs, some back exercises, hip thrusts, all of those things. I'll argue till I go blue in the face that all of those things cross over to teaching someone how to deadlift. It's just about putting that sequence together. So you can do the same thing with the squat. We've got it for the deadlift as well. So probably should have used that proper progression regression model. But it's just like, it's for a less technically proficient trainer who doesn't understand all of that stuff and can't verbally tell somebody, with a bar on their back, who still probably doesn't understand the language that you're speaking. Put them in a different position that forces them to challenge what you're trying to tell them. It's just they're in space, so the leverages make them do it.
Yeah, I would almost argue, I would be pretty confident that almost anyone, unless they had like true physical restrictions, like structural restrictions, could walk in the door of my garage and I could get them under a bar and do a squat within an hour.
100%. Could you have done that 10 years ago?
Well, no, but I'm saying even for those who are technically proficient, who have that skill set, if I compare that person that I need to do that with to bringing someone in and going, where are you? What can you do right now without much input from me? Start doing that and then compare both people 6 weeks from now. I'm pretty confident, based on what I've seen since applying this model 2-3 years ago, that the person that starts training, not practicing for training, will be in a better position in 6, 12, 16 weeks than the person who has to spend 4 weeks just squatting the barbell, even though strength-wise they could probably squat 50, 60 kilos. They can't execute the skill well enough. I would bet that the person who's training from day one gets a better outcome over that period.
Yeah, I agree. It's like, in my opinion, a counterbalance squat will teach, that thoracolumbar control that allows someone to help stabilize their midsection in that squat, if that's the failing point, way faster than telling a newbie to put a bar on their back and just brace, that brace breath, big brace. Yep, chest up. Oh, but then put it down. Oh, but then don't tuck this, that. It's like, they're just like, what the fuck are you saying to me? Like, there's just too much happening right now.
Yeah.
Where if you just put them in a position where it's like, when you push out, they're just like, oh shit, I've got to squeeze this. And it's like, that's exactly what we're trying to talk about. Just like you're feeling it rather than me telling you, and you're receiving my information and trying to make an action of it.
Yeah. And that's a perfect example. So those two people walk into the gym, one goes with trainer who has an emotional attachment to the barbell squat. Cool. I'm going to teach you how to barbell squat. Great. Versus they walk into one of us and like, cool, grab a plate, counterbalance squat, 2 weeks of that. Next week, all right, single kettlebell front squat for 2 weeks. The other person's still trying to figure out the barbell, still getting depth, still getting stability, haven't really perfected the weight yet. So we're not going to add any weight if you're a responsible PT. Then we go, right, okay, single, you can't actually hang on to one kettlebell anymore. You're too strong for it. Here's 2, put them on your shoulders, squat. All right, now I want you to get under a bar and do a squat. I guarantee that person that went through those progressions will out squat the other.
Yeah, and safer, and I agree.
All right, back on topic.
Talk about programming for ages.
Yeah, so the other 2 considerations that you should have for programming, which what I might do is get Tam to put some show notes in, because we talked about this till we're blue in the face.
Yeah.
Is understanding volume distribution and tracking of volume, and understanding the relationship between volume and intensity.
Yeah.
Like we were saying, most of the Cert 4 programming models that are out there, that we've taught anyway, are really fucking good at doing that. So honestly, just get your Cert 4 book out and actually reread it with some respect, and it'll probably tick the boxes. I think there's a little bit of like, yes, the old PT certs were shit. The theory that like it's too cheap, comes in a cereal box, whatever. It's not a lot of respect paid to the Cert 4 education. That's one thing that I can hang my hat on and say that like I'm really proud of teaching that, and I enjoyed teaching it because I think it was really valuable for PTs who are entry level. But yeah, you should, like Jace was saying, if we came up to you and like, why have you made this program the way that it is? You should be able to talk about, well, I've distributed the volume because, and I've chosen this intensity because, I've chosen these exercises specifically because. If If you can do that, you're in a pretty good position, and then just practice that over time and you'll get better anyway.
Yeah. And for those that don't want to read their Cert 3 and 4 book, because maybe that's, they're just a couple of years in and whatever, there's some really good books that are just on like, periodization of strength training. So I actually think the book is that. So it's like complete guide of periodization, strength training, or something along those lines. Like maybe I'll try and find it and put it in the show notes. So I haven't read it in a long time, but you can get most of the fundamentals of actual programming just from a really good book as well. So just for those.
What's Chad and Mike's one?
Scientific Principles of Strength. So that's also a great read.
Yeah. So that would probably be my next step. If you feel like you're pretty comfortable with that fundamental, that's makes the skeleton for our programming model. It's really, really effective, and it introduces a shitload of variables, more so around strength though, less for the body composition. Yeah. Schoenfeld's one's not bad for that.
Yeah, there's a lot. So you should be able to kind of just find someone that you kind of connect with as an educator in the online space. Go and eat up their content. Yeah, 9 times out of 10, you're going to be in the right space when it comes to that kind of stuff.
I'm going to do the standout PT course.
Well, yeah, the principles are the principles. So if people are talking about those things, they usually know what they're talking about.
Yeah. So next up, things that we want to talk about in terms of like your technical proficiency. This one is the most gray area, most talked about, most overcomplicated section that there is in terms of technical skills that come with being a personal trainer, and that's nutrition.
Yeah. Massive place where people are operating in who have no business doing. Massive place that people are operating in that don't really know what they're doing. A massive place that people overcomplicate and navigate through too quickly and aren't good at the other things that we spoke about before.
Yeah. So if we come back to the first point, which is conversations to empower and encourage habit formation over time with a client. The fundamentals for a personal trainer should be that. Build long-term habits around nutrition based on all we can go off is the healthy eating guidelines, essentially, or you could refer to other materials provided you understand them, to encourage a client to progressively improve their average baseline of nutrition over time. Yeah. We obviously get caught up in as nerds, and if you're listening to that, you probably know your calorie intake, track your macros. It's the first thing that Jason and I were sort of talking about whenever we catch up. Eat more, whatever. And we like to nerd out on this shit. And if you're doing it yourself, you like to nerd out on this shit. But understand, we had a really cool conversation with one of the girls in the education call last night, just around like remembering that you might only need to do a check-in with someone every 4 weeks and review how much protein they're eating. You don't have to micromanage their calorie intake, protein, carbs, and fats and fiber every single day to get fit and tone up and improve your body composition. Yeah. It's not a requirement. Jason and I were sort of saying like we didn't do check-ins for the first 6 years of our career. We got some pretty good results, I would say. We managed to pay our bills, so we're obviously doing all right. Yeah. Maybe after the first year, I was paying my bills anyway.
I think the nutrition space, obviously, a lot of people want to become that one-stop shop. Nutrition is such an important element to getting outcomes for body composition, especially performance as well. So a lot of trainers kind of want to move into that to be, because they want to improve their service. So definitely can understand that. Most of them read a couple of books and then feel like they're, qualified enough to kind of navigate the space and need to really understand kind of like what line they're kind of treading on in terms of compliance and stuff. There's certainly some courses out there for personal trainers that are a little bit shorter in time frame, can give you kind of some insurance and knowledge to give healthy people and athletic populations advice on nutrition. We've been chatting to someone just recently. I found another course as well. So you can definitely put yourself in a good position to offer that. I think before you do that, just understand basic nutrition like I believe every single person in this world should do. It's like, why do we need to eat? What is energy balance? What are the 3 situations that manipulate our body composition? what are the macronutrients, and then you move to eating behavior, starting to work on molding someone's eating behavior. And that's where I feel like, or maybe they're the ones that I have exposed myself to the most, but precision nutrition are one of the best at getting people to work on eating behavior.
Yeah.
If you can get someone conscious about what they're eating, that's better than knowing anything about macros and stuff to start with. So people aren't going to really kind of care about what's going in the system until you think about what's happening from a eating choice, frequency, perspective first. Then you can kind of start to micromanage nutrition once they've got that foundation. So there's no real point going to the top if the bottom's not there. It's like they're just going to fall out from underneath them.
Yeah. I think the precision nutrition hand plan is definitely in the nutrition space, potentially across the board, one of the most valuable single resources that are available for personal trainers.
Yeah.
It's underutilized so much.
So simple, so easy to follow. Obviously encourages people to do things like food logs and take photos and send them to their coach, be mindful of their nutrition. As long as the advice is coming back, and that's where the coaching conversations come from too. It's like how to understand people's food choices, rather than just like trying to get everyone to eat like you. And then you can start to make it work. It's like I got fucking peeled without even thinking about a macro and a gram of whatever food. Like I got shredded. So it can happen. It's just obviously I had a good awareness of food choices and knew what to have. But it's like I just wanted to prove to myself, like, could I just look at a food on a plate and then just be a bit intuitive on like how much I needed to eat and get in shape? And you definitely can. You can do it. And I've gotten good results with other people to it. We've gotten good results with other people doing it. And it's like, I'm still working within my scope there.
Yeah.
As a coach, providing a resource from someone else who's qualified, that I agree with, and understanding that we need to eat frequently. The food needs to relatively look like this. These are the food groups where you get them from. And then it's just auto-regulation and intuition, like with changing stuff.
Done. I think we'll do a whole episode maybe, because I think it's one of the thing we get a lot with people coming through for the Standout PT course is like, what can't I do with nutrition?
Yeah. I think it's important to understand, like, the fat loss situation, the hypertrophy situation, how to get performance, those kind of things. I think it's really good to understand like your calories and, adaptive thermogenesis and all of these things, like all of them. But we need to make sure that we don't take that knowledge and move into a space that we're not supposed to.
Yeah.
Like you can know it so that if someone says to me, oh, I'm doing keto, it's like, okay, what's made you decide to do that? So then you go, all right, I know the ketogenic diet. I understand this. I understand what fuel's being burned. I understand the bake up. It's like, tell me the macro split of your keto diet, like in air quotes, So I think that that's a really valuable thing to do. It's more when we just start to like act as nutritionists and dietitians and stuff, and we have no scope to do so. That's like when we're potentially getting ourselves into a risky situation. Mm-hmm. But yeah, very valuable. Very valuable.
So next up, what you'll need to do well is track results.
Yep.
There's a lot of PTs that actually don't do this, and they're the ones that we talked about typically that don't have programs, because there's that little bit of fear of like, well, what if I don't get an outcome and this person, like I get exposed as a shit PT because they're not getting the outcomes that they're supposed to over whatever period of time. So it's getting good at that and getting good at interpreting outcomes and then looping back to that conversation and having the client have input in that as well. Like, was discussing it last night. Like, we used to do monthly check-ins. Results tracking was once a month. Measurements, feedback, how was your nutrition? How was your training? Were you adherent? How many sessions did you do? Et cetera, et cetera. What's the main thing we need to work on this month? And then move on with our lives and come back in a month and do it again. Obviously now the people that we work with need that little bit of more fine tuning on a week-to-week basis. A month's maybe too long.
Yep.
So we've moved to weekly check-ins. But again, that's coming back to understanding your client. If your client's a mum of 3 who doesn't see value in filling out a spreadsheet every week and submitting that to you, then we just need to find a solution that works for that person. It's very similar to that nutrition thing. Just because you value it doesn't mean they do.
Yeah, I think at some point, you have to be tracking stuff, because it's where all the decision making should come from. Like, we need to use some form of data and metrics to I guess, work out that the plan that you've put in place is going to, like it's going to plan, like, we're getting the outcomes that we want. And then we also need to use that data and metrics to come to the conclusion that things aren't working either, and why they could potentially not be working. Like every single plan that we put together is based off like these hypothetical start points of like really good information. We don't know if that's actually going to work out in real time. So we've got to now go, right, well, what does the data show? Are we, moving in the right direction? And if we're not, it's like, is the plan not really where it's supposed to be? Or is the client not following the plan because they either are doing something they, consciously know is sabotaging them from the plan, or they might actually not know. They might not be consciously aware of that. And that happens a lot. And that's where, again, coaching conversations comes in. You always go there first rather than trying to go in all defensively. And it's like, well, you haven't been doing this. You haven't been following your program. And again, we have this relationship that's, kind of ticking over in a very healthy manner, providing a good platform to come up with a good solution.
It's also understanding what the client's outcome actually is. Like when you're tracking results, what results does the client care about? If they just want to see that they're getting stronger month to month and they don't give a fuck about fat loss, you're banging your head against a brick wall. Like, why are you eating so much? And why are you eating out on the weekends and stuff? But their strength numbers are going up. You're telling them they're failing, even though based on what they told you they wanted, they're getting success. Like, it's not going to bode real well. I told the story heaps of times of a client I had. I just wouldn't stop drinking wine every day. And I used to just fucking go crazy about it. Like in my head, obviously not at her. And it got to the point where one day I was just like, before I was mature enough to ask this question frequently, which you should be, I just went, are you happy with your results? Because I was done. I was at the end of the line, just like, I'm fucking done. I'm not training this person anymore.
Yeah.
And then she was just like, well, yeah, like I'm not getting fatter. I'm getting stronger. And my husband works 70 hours a week and you're the only adult I talk to other than my 2 children. And I was like, oh, okay then. Awesome. So just keep as is. She's like, yeah, it's great. I'm having fun. And I was like, fuck me. So it was just like 6 months of drama in my own head that didn't need to happen because like she was happy with her outcomes.
Yeah, I think if you want to avoid that situation where you're like pulling teeth and pulling your own hair out, like just with either you're not satisfied with the outcomes or that person isn't, and you don't know where to move to next, like set yourself up to have some data points to just track them and be able to look at them and rationally go, right, we're going to do this next, because this says this, or, there's a tremendous amount of like resilience that gets made when you track things and like things don't go well. It's like, it's not perfect every time. Sometimes we fuck it up, but sometimes you don't follow the plan and you don't want to take ownership for it. So it's like, you need to, go back to the drawing board and go, right, well, we're going to do this again and we're going to follow this. And the other thing as well is it reinforces good habits when things go well. So again, if you're not tracking stuff, if you're not measuring things, you can't manage things. You're guessing, you're just hoping, you're just blindly throwing at a dartboard, hoping you hit the target. So
yeah,
that you're going to get found out at some point.
So revisiting all of these. So, excuse me, we started with like your ability to communicate and we've moved on to the fundamentals, which is like exercise, execution, and writing a program. That's how we're going to make change in somebody. We know that nutrition is going to play a large role in that. So we probably need something that's going to be in the realm of nutrition based on the client that we're working with. Today, we've talked more so about like your general gym client. Depending on what kind of coach you are is going to be what level of programming and nutrition knowledge you need to then apply. It has to solve the problem for the person you're working with. Then we go into results tracking. Again, that's going to be dependent on who you're working with and what results they actually want. If you want to see like 50 kilos added to your powerlifting total in 6 months, me checking your progress once every 4 weeks is probably not going to be the best way to do that. We probably need to see things a little bit more often. I need to track different stuff. So we've got the results tracking. Then we come down to like, all right, well, what else does it take to get an outcome out of somebody? What are the other variables that we may be able to influence as personal trainers inside our scope that would give us, create a better outcome for the client? The last one I'm sort of putting up there is like just lifestyle tracking. So being able to look at other points that are inside somebody's life that you could have a positive impact on, that would then in turn return a positive impact on their training outcomes that you're trying to provide for them. So sleep is the number one thing that stands out for me. Like, that's something that starts going into the tracker straight away, or it's a conversation if someone's not willing to track it. Like, oh, how was your sleep? How is this kind of traveling? Every time you come in at the moment, you tell me you're having shit sleep. Let's like put together something that we can work on that for. The other one that's sorry, Jace, go.
No, keep going, bro. I'll add at the end.
The other one that's like probably not so much right now. It was like a couple of years ago, maybe it was everywhere. Was like prescribing steps for NEAT, which if it's prescribed, it's not NEAT. But anyway, so just being able to look at what's someone's total output and putting that in consideration into their overall lifestyle. So that means looking at what their job is like. Are they sedentary? Are they active? Are they doing training outside of your training? I've got a couple of girls at the moment that are military, that's like balancing their workload is really challenging because that's so variable week to week. So understanding those things, Jace is just typing in as we go, which is literally what I was going to go to next, which is just general like stress and overwhelm and anxiety. That's something that as a personal trainer, we can put resources together to help with. Like, can you encourage someone to get on Headspace and spend 5 minutes a night doing that before they go to sleep, which actually ticks 2 birds with 1 stone? Can you encourage 20 minutes outside per day without their phone? Can you influence these choices and decisions that your client's making that's going to positively impact your overall package? I think like what Jay said earlier is people start jumping into like, you need to get some blue blockers, so some blue light blockers to improve your sleep, while they don't actually know how to teach a squat. So I think this is built pretty well in an importance hierarchy. Like, this is the shit you need to get right in order. And I would make sure you have some level of mastery of each one before you start fucking with the next one.
Yeah. Just with the lifestyle factor stuff, like, again, it's you understanding this person that you're working with. You can start to put together this like global approach, this holistic approach to, getting results for them. Not just taking care of like one part of, being in the training, or maybe 2 parts in the nutrition. Now looking at things from a global perspective and trying to make the best choices for this person, or putting this person in the best position to make the best choices for themselves. Yeah. That's probably a better way to describe it. That is going to, again, separate you from those people that just come in, whiteboard trainers, just whatever, see you later, after your half an hour, you're done. So you're also going to get better outcomes with these people. These people are also going to get a better client experience. These people are also going to talk more about you. You're going to have, really good before and afters and really good, testimonials and stuff. So hopefully you guys are starting to think about like, kind of put together the picture of like, if I run a good business, if I am a really good communicator, if I know my client, if I know their problems and I've developed a service to solve them, I have all these good technical skills that are related to the client. That's where this like, this momentum, which is your business, starts to move in a direction where you start to get more clients. You can start to charge more money. You can start to, get this freedom back to kind of do other things, and you don't feel so shackled to your business. And it doesn't just come like, you can't do that just with this pillar.
Correct.
And I think that's important to identify. It is tremendously valuable, but we cannot do this whole thing, this whole PT business thing with just this pillar. Like, it's not a 1 pillar method. It's the 5 pillar method. And we know that because we've made huge mistakes in the past just doing the 1 pillar method.
And it's challenging because this is the most fun one. Like, if you go back on the rest of our episodes, it's like 90% of our episodes are talking about being great.
Yeah. If you throw the values out as a personal trainer, being technically, endeavoring to be technically proficient in these and like, learning and educating is going to be right up there. Like, spending as much time on this as possible. It's like, we have a look at like the survivability of a personal training business and removing the stress and anxiety that comes from not having any clients, not paying the bills, not seeing the growth that you want, not working with the people that you want to either. We can't lie in this pillar only.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's where we've got to go, right, well, I need to make sure that I'm doing some stuff to be creative, to learn, to value my education and stuff. But I also need to, make sure that I'm putting my business in the best position to create a future for myself. This is a great industry if you do the right things to lay the right foundations and actually put yourself in a position to make a living off it. Yeah. But if you don't do that, it'll take your fucking soul. and it won't give it back.
Yeah. Yeah. The main three problems, and we talk about these a lot, that we see with personal trainers is an inability to attract clients. They work too much and they don't get paid enough.
Yeah.
So when we look at, okay, well, they're the problems that most personal trainers have. And that's the reason why there's so little amount of personal trainers between the ages of 25 and 45, because those things happen and it makes it really hard to do the adult thing.
Yeah.
Buy a house, have a family, live the life that you want to live inside the environment of being a personal trainer. So that's the lens that we want you guys just to take a look at. I know today it almost sounded like we were anti-knowledge, and we're not. That's not what we're trying to communicate to you guys. It's like, you guys need to be knowledgeable about what you're supposed to be knowledgeable. Then go and learn all the cool shit, listen to all the podcasts, like fucking message me on Instagram and talk about nerdy shit. I don't care. But when it comes to your clients, you need to make sure you're really fucking good at delivering their outcome. And that's what the Be Great pillar is about, is being really fucking good at delivering the outcome.
Yeah, we want all you guys to deliver good outcomes.
If you're delivering a good outcome and you look at those three problems, like, will I attract more clients if I get good results? Of course you will. Will you have to work as much if you systemize this shit and you understand you have a programming model, a nutrition model, you know how to track for your individual clients, you know what things to look at and how frequently you do it, you know how to communicate with people effectively, and you have resources based on understanding them? Do you have to spend as much time on each client? No, it's more efficient. And then we go, cool, so I'm great at getting results. I get them in a really short period of time and it's simple and I understand my clients. Do you think you could probably charge more than what you currently do? Of course you could. Definitely. So you've increased the efficiency of your business. You've increased the income that you're making per client. And all of a sudden clients are starting to come into you and you're living this fucking dream that you were sold 1 to 5 years ago during your Cert 4 of this lifestyle of a personal trainer.
Yep.
So to wrap that all up, obviously the 5 pillars, we've gone through all of them now. The mindset one was contained in the overall 5 pillars, if you want to unpack that, if you're searching for it. So mindset, model, service, client acquisition, and be great. They're the 5 things that you're going to need. What we recommend you guys do after this episode, hopefully you've heard all 5, even if you haven't, if this is the first one you're listening to, jump onto stcfitlearning.com /products. In there, you will find our business scorecard. It's free. I know it says products, but it's free. Jump on there and just assess the health of your business overall. So it will test you on all 5 of those pillars and see where you come out. And then if you want to, Jason and I can jump on a call with you and unpack those even further and just maybe point out where you could make where the lowest hanging fruit is to make big impacts on those 3 problems and get some solutions to make sure the good people that are taking the time and effort to listen to shit like this are actually staying in the industry. They're getting the rewards that they deserve. And from a selfish position to help us reach the 1 million people that we aim to by 2030.
Yep.
Obviously, make sure also following at STCfit _learning on Instagram, at Jason Galea _STCfit, STC, sorry. And then at Ben Scott STC. If you're interested in the online coaching side of things and looking at what we do in that space, so to client side of things, that's at STCfit. Like I said, the website is stcfitlearning.com. There's 3 free gifts on there at the moment. So there's niching your business, there's a squat, bench, deadlift tutorial, and case studies of how our guys thrived, really. I was going to say survived, but thrived through COVID last year and beyond. And then, in closing, the Standout PT course launches on February 1st, which we're fucking excited about.
Yeah, this is going to be epic.
12-week program. Jason and I are pretty much putting the finishing touches on it now. We're really excited with the level that it's at. Workshops and on e-learning, question and answer sessions with us as well. Super interactive, super tangible and practical of like shit that you actually do instead of just hearing things that you never apply that don't actually impact your business. So inbox us straight away. We only have a few spots left where we're almost at capacity already. So hit us up, make sure you get a spot, and otherwise we'll see you in 2 weeks time.
Yep. That was great. Hope you guys enjoyed that episode. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Yeah.